Shalom, beloved Mashpaka. So, real quick, I was just sitting here talking to Yahuah about his feast days and his weekly Shabbat, and just asking him, inquiring him on how he truly wants us to observe these things in the Ruach, in his Ruach. And something that he said to me was, a lot of us have come out of the world and we came into his house, but we didn't inquire these things of him. So a lot of what we have been doing has been what the Ish people have been doing, and what they're doing is Judaism, which is not the same thing as what Yahuah has commanded us, his people, to do. And I used to be of the mindset that, as long as we are attempting to keep his feast days, Yahuah would be pleased. And what Yahuah said to me was, as a babe, he is pleased because we're just now waking up, coming out of the world into his kingdom. And he does understand that it's going to take some adjustment and so on and so forth. But what he also said to me is, if you continue in that mindset and never come to him and inquire of him as to how he wants us to keep his feast days, his weekly Shabbats, or do any of the things that he has commanded of us, including keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments, hallelujah, he said that at some point in time, you are going to err because you haven't sought him. Remember, Yahuwah's word says, you have not because you ask not. He also says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. So with that being said, what he is saying is, he also told us to come to him as little children. So what he's saying is, come to him and ask him. This is not meant to be an admonishment. This is meant to be more of an encouragement. Hey, come to Yahuah and ask him. It's kind of like a checks and balances type thing. Go to him and seek his face and inquire. Are we actually doing things the way you want us to do them? Or have we somehow fallen into the traditions of men and been doing things against your will? And it's a simple, quick prayer that you can go and seek the Father's face of, and it'll please him. And if you are in fact, or if we are in fact doing things wrong, then guess what he'll do? He'll correct us. Not destroy, correct, because we sought him on what his will is, right? And that includes like the beginning of the month. That includes everything, to be honest with you. It includes everything. There's a lot of things that we argue about in Yasharal, Shabbat starts at this time, is on this day, or the day starts at sundown versus the day starts at sunrise. We argue and fight about a lot of things like that, when really Yahuwah has made it extremely simple for us. Go to him and seek his face on as to when he has set these things apart. He created it. Why not seek him on it? Instead of taking our own thoughts and feelings and interpretations about his word and arguing amongst each other, why not seek the Father as a collective or as a body? Seek the Father as a body and say, hey, Yah, hey, Yahuwah, what is it that you want us to do? How is it you want us to do it? When is it you want us to do it? Where is it you want us to do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really simple. He's made it really simple for us. One of the scripts that came to mind, well, it didn't come to mind. It was part of my Bible study this morning, and that's Matthew 11:28-30. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So if you go back through that, this is Yahushua speaking. Come unto me. So he's saying, come to him. Come underneath his covering, okay? Because the husband or the bridegroom is the covering of the bride or the wife. All you that labor and are heavy laden. So if you're out here and you're weary in your well-doing, you're supposed to rest underneath the covering of Yahushua. And he says, I will give you rest. Because there's different functions that the husband takes on as opposed to the wife. The wife is the helpmeet of the husband, but the wife should never do the function of the husband. So a lot of us are becoming weary in our well-doing because we're trying to function as the bridegroom instead of the bride. You see, we're supposed to be led, we're not the leader. Then he says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. That is an invitation to come into the house and learn. Not come into the house and dominate, not come into the house and preach and do all this other stuff, but come into the house and learn. Learn, just like Mariam sat down at his feet and was learning. And he said, this thing shall not, the thing that Mary has chosen is good and it should not be taken from her, right? For I am meek and lowly in heart, you shall find rest for your soul. So he's letting you know, if you do these things, if you humble yourself, that lowly in heart is that's humility. Meekness is humility. So he's saying, if you humble yourselves, you'll find rest for your souls. So if you humble yourself and you come underneath my care, you'll find rest for your souls, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He's letting you know, when you come unto me, I will take care of you the way a husband should take care of a wife, the way a bridegroom takes care of his bride. So you no longer have to function on a in a dog-eat-dog system. Now you have a covering that takes care of you, protects you, so on and so forth. And that's all Yahuah wants us to do. He wants us to come to him and seek him for everything. It doesn't have to be arguing. It doesn't have to be division. It doesn't have to be any of these things if we would really just humble ourselves and seek his face. You know, there's a lot of people that were awakened, and maybe there's a lot of people that came out of Christianity, you know, and were awakened from Christianity. And unfortunately, instead of going to Yahuah, a lot of people that might have been pastors, teachers, evangelists, so on and so forth, came out of Christianity, were awakened by Yahuah, and they kept functioning in those titles, but never sought Yahuah, never took time to sit down and seek Yahuah to see what it is that he has called them to be. Because a lot of times in Christianity, and I'm only speaking on Christianity because I used to be a Christian, you'll also hear me speak on the occult because I used to be an occultist, but I didn't do too many of the other things. I mean, I was a universalist at one point in time, and I dabbled in, you know, Buddhism, but I wasn't in it enough to really know the ins and out the way I do the occult and Christianity. So when you hear me speaking of these things, I'm not speaking to put down these particular groups. I'm just speaking from my experience, and I don't want to misspeak because we are not supposed to be false witnesses. But with that being said, a lot of times in Christianity, we give out titles like that woman in the grocery store giving out free samples in order to sell a product. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody that has an inkling of an anointing on them. So, you know, people will be like, oh, you're a prophet, or you're an apostle, you're an evangelist. And, you know, you have some people, they got 7 titles that precede their name, you know? And so a lot of it, what happens is Yahuah wakes people up, they come in here and then they don't sit down. Or rather, sometimes Yahuah didn't wake those people up. They just heard a tumultuous noise going on in Zion, and they came to see what was taking place, and they started hearing that we were the people. So once they heard that we were the people, and they started hearing the doctrine of Yahuah, and they saw how it was the truth versus what they were currently in, they came in, but Yahuah never drew them in. Yahuah never drew them to Yahusha, like Yahusha says in John 6:44. So with that being said, they didn't properly come into the house. They didn't come in through Yahusha. They just came in through the sound that they heard, and they were like, that sounds better than what I'm doing. And so these are the thieves and the robbers that Yahuah was talking about, Yahusha was talking about in John chapter 10, because they didn't come in through the door of the sheepfold. So with that being said, they weren't properly introduced into the house. They didn't come in and sit down and learn and be washed and all that other stuff. They came in with all the filth of the world, and they started tracking that filth throughout the rest of the house. And unfortunately, some of it has gotten on some of Yahuah's children, and Yahuah has had to, clean up his children, put them back on the path, remind them that I didn't tell you to do that. Someone else told you to do that. That's another voice. That's not my voice. So that's all Yahuah wants us to do. Make sure that we are really listening to his voice and not another's voice. And it doesn't matter who that other is. If it's not Yahuah's voice, it's not the right voice. So just to make sure that we're not practicing Judaism and calling it righteous, seek the Father. That's all it takes. Seek the Father. Because these are the things that he wants us to know. He's not going to hide it from us if he's telling us to do it. That's not his character, to tell us to do something and then not show us how to do it properly and then judge us for not doing it properly. That's not his character at all. So that's just the encouragement for today. Whatever it is that we're already currently doing, just seek Yahuah's face on it. Again, this was not meant to be an admonishment, because if you are doing things, it's just meant to encourage you to go to the Father and just to make sure that you're doing them correctly. I'm going to Yahuah and I'm asking him, am I doing this according to your will, according to your way, and in your Ruach? Because I want to make sure that I'm pleasing the Father and not man. And there have been times that Yahuah has told me that even if you got to walk alone, you still need to walk with me. And I'll share this with you all and I'll go. One thing that I have consistently been saying to Yahuah, I found myself consistently saying to Yahuah within the past few months via Ruach HaKodesh is, I am willing to look like a fool on your behalf if your will can be done through me and it makes you happy. So what I mean by that is I'm not a fool, but to the world I will look like a fool. You feel me? And that is the vow offering that I have offered up to Yahuah. The first vow offering that we offer him is a peace offering, a thanksgiving offer. A thanksgiving offering of peace is what we give him. That's when we accept Yahusha as our bridegroom, as our kinsman redeemer, as our king, and we know that he is the son of Yahuah, the only begotten son of Yahuah, right? And then the second peace offering that we offer is a vow or a voluntary or a free will offering. And this is the vow that I have offered unto Yahuah. I am willing to look like a fool for you if your will be done and it makes you happy. And that offering is one that once you make it, you cannot be slack to perform it. So if you take Leviticus 7, where it talks about the free will offering, when it talks about the free will offering, I want to say it starts somewhere in, give me just a second. I got my phone open and I can actually pull it up for you in just a second. I definitely said Leviticus, not Deuteronomy. I want to say it starts in verse 15. Yes, I just want to make sure. So 15 is where it talks about the Thanksgiving. Verse 16 is where it starts going into the vow or voluntary offering. And you can read a couple of verses after that. And then if you go on over to Deuteronomy 23, starting in verse 21, it talks about, I'm going to read Deuteronomy 23, 21 to 23. When you shall vow a vow unto Yahuah Eluah, you shall not slack to pay it, for Yahuah Eluah will surely require it of you, and it would be sin in you. So if you vow to do something unto Yahuah and then you take your time getting it done, it's going to be sin unto you because you opened your mouth and said that you would do something and you're not doing it. And if you pair that with what it says over in Leviticus 7, for the vow offering, it says that you have 2 days to eat it. On the third day is an abomination. The reason being is because you're taking your time to complete this vow. So it pairs along with what Deuteronomy is saying. Verse 22, but if you shall forbear to vow it, it shall be no sin in you. So if you don't make the vow, it's not sin in you because you never agreed that you were going to do these things. That which is gone out of your lips, you shall guard and perform it. Even a free will offering, according as you have vowed unto Yahuah Eluah, which you have promised with your mouth. All right? And so this also pairs with that part, and I can't remember where it is in the Basarah, but it pairs with the parable of the two, I think they were two brothers. No, the two sons. Well, yeah, that would make them brothers. But the two sons, where the father had told them to go do something. The first son was like, I'm gonna go do it, and then he didn't go do it. But then the second son said he wasn't gonna do it, but then he went and did it. And the son that actually did it was the righteous son, because he never vowed to do it, but he actually did it. But the other son was unrighteous because he vowed to do it and he never did it. That principle is what it's talking about here in Deuteronomy 23. And I'll probably put in the description of this video where that parable can be found, so you can go read it for yourself, all right? Or I'll put it up on the screen when I go to edit this video. All right, you all, I pray that you are enjoying your day, and much ahaba and shalom.